When you come to the 22nd chapter of Luke, Jesus is trying to prepare his disciples for his imminent crucifixion and resurrection. And he ultimately tells them whoever wants to be greatest in the kingdom, in a few verses preceding these, must be a servant. But then he slips down and focuses his attention on Simon Peter. And as we think about Peter's role in Pentecost, Peter's story is so important as it pertains to why Peter goes hard in the paint for Christ later on. And this gives us just a little context. And so this is a word that hopefully will help us not only finish strong, but also a word to guard us as we get ready to enter into the summer. So Jesus now sharing with Peter these words. Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift you. What that initially should cause us to recognize, particularly as we have a few days to go, finish strong, you got to be mindful that you are a target. Now, you really could stop at the first part. Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift you. Now, the other time where we recognize where Satan comes to God and asks to sift somebody, of course, is in Job. Job chapter 1, verses 6 through 8, when he comes again before God and says, have you considered my servant Job? But you really have to ask yourself, what are the qualifications for being talked about between God and Satan? Would you be qualified to be sifted? Would you be qualified for Satan to have a conversation about you with God? It must say something about your work, and it must say something about your witness, and it must say something about the way you're being unapologetic about how your light is shining in order for Satan to say, God, I got some of your folk that I want to sift. And you must consider the fact that the issue has never been about us. It has always been about Satan trying to prove to God you're not as great as the folk you have worshiping you think you are. That's what and it's always, again, that's a workers' comp claim. Because Lucifer was kicked out of heaven. So Lucifer is always engaging in war because he got a vendetta against God for kicking him out as the leader of worship. And how else to get to you? By ultimately getting to those who love you and those who worship you. Again, when we really consider the fact as we talk about Dr. King, but also on May 19th as we celebrated the birthday of Malcolm X became a target. Because he was the most dangerous individual, the most dangerous African-American in the world when he decided that he was going to go before the United Nations and bring America up on human rights. Shifted from the nationalist perspective and said, I'm going to bring it up on human rights. But why do you become a target? You become a target, one, just because of your connection. You become a target because you just decide to be in relationship with Christ. You decide to believe in the things of God. But not just because you decide to be connected, but it's also because you decide to be committed. So young people, there are some things that you're going to have to guard yourself against in these next coming days. Don't allow yourself to get caught up in no Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter beef real quick. We got enough trigger fingers turned Twitter fingers out here. Don't allow yourself. No hate on me. We got enough of that going on. Don't allow yourself to get easily distracted by someone or something as you have to prepare to close out the next couple of days. And we tend to forget sometimes, we don't tell y'all when you're young, the reality is if you're going to love Christ, if you're going to serve Christ, the psalmist reminds us in Psalm 39:14, many are the afflictions of the righteous. But the blessing is the Lord delivereth us out of them all. Because of your connection and because of your commitment, you got to get ready to face some things. And that's only a direct result of the fact that you decided to love God. So he says, Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift you. This sifting is an intentional and vigorous separation process to separate the wheat from the debris. See, the wheat and the chaff look just alike. And the only way in which you're going to get the wheat, which is necessary for food, over against the chaff, which is ultimately to be thrown out, is there got to be a shaking process, got to be a sifting process, got to be a stirring up process. And I know some of y'all probably thought y'all teachers were sifting y'all like crazy this year. Some of you all thought some of the things, assignments and projects you had were in an effort to destroy you. And in fact, it was only an effort to build you up. It was only in an effort to stretch you. It was only in an effort to cause you to dig a little deeper in order that you could meet the rest of yourself and bring out all of your God-invested potential. And that's what happened in Karate Kid, right? With Jaden Smith, he thought that he wasn't getting the necessary training that he desired. He wanted to learn karate. He wanted to learn how to defend himself against bullies and didn't know that as Jackie Chan had him putting on the coat and taking off the coat, putting on the coat and taking off the coat, he didn't realize that sifting process was developing his ability to be able to defend himself. And every now and again, you're going to have to go through something, not because you've sinned, not because you've been disobedient, not because you got unforgiveness in your heart, but you're going to have to deal with some things because of the fact that you're crazy enough to actually believe God, that you're foolish enough to actually trust God, that you're willing to do those things that other folk won't do because you're chasing after that which God has for you.